we have two outstanding speakers next. Very, very important. You are outstanding. Very, very valuable to our patients. A different angle, if you will, when caring for our loved ones, treating that whole person. So the symptoms that may accompany dementia, and also the supportive services that we have with for you as the care provider, the care partner. So with us today for our next presentation, we have Tammy Evanow. She's a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner with Norton Neuroscience Institute. She works with older adults experiencing neuropsychiatric symptoms due to memory loss, dementia, and other chronic neurological issues. She collaborates with neurology and geriatric medicine specialists and social workers to meet the unique mental health needs of patients. Also with us is Chris Hurley. He's a licensed clinical social worker with Norton Neuroscience Institute Memory Center. He graduated from the University of Louisville with an undergraduate degree in psychology and a master's in social work. He specialized in psychosocial oncology and palliative care during his time at U of L Kent School of Social Work. He obtained an educational grant from the American Cancer Society that provided an internship experience with the University of Louisville, Hospice Health Louisville, and Gilda's Club of Kentuckiana. Christopher conducted work in pediatric hospice and grief counseling before joining Norton Neuroscience Institute. So help me in welcoming Chris and Tammy.
Oh, there's another thing here. Hello.
Hello.
Can you? It's like we're dueling here.
I know it.
Yeah. Just put it over
okay.
where there. There's not a
We don't have
a shelf here, so I'm just going to throw it on the floor. So welcome, everybody. Appreciate you all being here today. As Stephanie said, my name's Tammy Evanow. I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner, and I've kind of concentrated most of my focus always on older adults, primarily those persons with dementia, or younger adults that have neurological conditions that are very similar to that. So let's talk a little bit about trends in Kentucky and Indiana. There's an estimated 6.5 million Americans that are age 65 and older that are living with Alzheimer's dementia. In 2020, Kentucky estimated that 75,000 people were living with Alzheimer's dementia, and they project that by 2025, Kentucky estimates 86,000 people. Think about that. That's an increase of 14.7%. And are we prepared for that? In 2020, Indiana estimated 110,000 people were living with Alzheimer's dementia. And by 2025, Indiana estimates 130,000 people living with dementia. So that's an increase of 18.2%. Y'all, this is my mom. I know, she's so cute, ain't she? So I lost my mom about 5 years ago, but she also had dementia. And so if you will indulge me, her pictures will be throughout this presentation because she was part of what helps me to stay grounded with what I do. So who are the caregivers? Who are the people that are providing the care? There are more than 11 million Americans that provide unpaid care for people with dementia, and approximately 2/3 of dementia caregivers are women. 30% of caregivers are 65 and older themselves, and over 60% of caregivers are married or living with a long-term partner. Over half of caregivers are providing care for a parent or an in-law with dementia. And approximately 1/4 of caregivers are considered the sandwich generation, where they're caring for an aging parent, but then they also still have children that they're raising of various ages. Yeah, very, very common. So you have kind of stressful things pulling at you on both ends. Responsibilities not only as a parent, but also as a child. So how can healthcare providers support you in this journey? So this right here, This is my greatest lesson right here. I am a psychiatric nurse practitioner. I've always pretty much worked with older adults, and particularly those with dementia. And this is my mom, henceforth known as Mima. And I did not pick up on her dementia. I did not. Myself. I do this for a living. It's very hard to recognize changes that you experience that are people that are close in your family. So a lot of times we run into people that say everything's fine, and then they got pneumonia and they went into the hospital and they've never been the same since. Something happened to them when they were in the hospital. Probably not. There was probably something that was already brewing before that happened. But as long as the sun and the moon and the stars are lined up just perfectly, everything can kind of truck along. So what did I learn from my experience with Mima? This was at Thanksgiving, by the way, y'all. She's fixing to tear that food up. I learned that it's hard to recognize those changes in your own family. And I learned that it can sometimes be hard to coordinate care with your family members. I have 2 older sisters that are identical twins. It's a little bit difficult, that's all I'm going to say about that. It's hard to find good providers that are able to meet your needs and recognize and have the time and pick up on the things that can go unnoticed. And that doesn't mean you're a bad provider, because it was my mom. And I like to think that I do a really good job at what I do, but I didn't pick up on it. I did eventually, but I didn't pick up on it right away.
Yeah, one of the most difficult things, sometimes one of the most difficult things for family members is to delegate tasks and to be able to.
Gotta get here.
One of the most difficult things for family members to do is to share decision-making capabilities, to delegate tasks, to get on the same page with one another. And we all, at some point, may disagree with our siblings or family members, and sometimes in stressful situations, those can be even more exacerbated. So it's very important to learn how to coordinate, to have providers to be able to kind of manage that and guide that.
Right. So you want to make sure that you are an active learner. Be actively engaged in the care process. So what does that look like if you're an active manager of your parent or your family member's diagnosis with dementia? Appropriate use of available treatment options. That means make sure that you're using every resource and every treatment that's available. Effective management of coexisting conditions. If there are other medical conditions that are impacting their functional ability, make sure it's addressed. Providing family members with effective training in managing the day-to-day life of their family member. That is an area where we very often fall short. There are many things that we assume that you know because we just all know it. And it is not common knowledge for family members. They don't necessarily know some of those things. Coordination of care amongst all healthcare providers, family, and caregivers. Participation in activities that are meaningful to the person with dementia and bring purpose to their life. Maintain a sense of self-identity and relationships with others, and dignity. That is a big one. Having opportunities to connect with other people that are living with dementia and family members that have the same experience as you, and become educated about the disease and plan for the future. Y'all, look at them glasses. So what is one of the things that is the most difficult to manage? Neuropsychiatric symptoms. This is very common with all stages of cognitive decline. You'll often hear healthcare providers refer to that as behavioral and psychological symptoms of dementia or neuropsychiatric symptoms. And those can include anxiety, delusions. Delusions are fixed false beliefs. They might be rooted in reality, but they're a little bit exaggerated or distorted. What is the most common one? Do you all want to take a guess? So, somebody's breaking in your house is very common. Somebody's going to kill you. That happens occasionally. Stealing. Somebody's stealing from me. Because they frequently will kind of misplace things. And, you know, I do that all the time with my husband, because I'm sure he has moved it. That's why I can't find it. But the most plausible explanation for something that's missing is that someone else must have taken it, and it's clearly their fault. Sleep disturbance is another big one, and that's really stressful for caregivers. Hallucinations is a sensory disturbance. So if you think about all of the senses that you have, probably the most common that people experience are visual, seeing things, or hearing things, auditory. And sometimes it's simply a misinterpretation of their environment. Maybe they actually hear the television playing in the background and they're talking about something that's distressing, or someone that's been involved in a car accident, and then they hear that in the back of their head, and somehow that kind of morphs into a family member that's been in a car accident. So one of the things that you want to always be aware of is what's going on in the environment. My mom, we used to watch Andy Griffith every night at 6 o'clock or something, TV Land, Andy Griffith. I've seen every Andy Griffith that exists. But, you know, she frequently thought Barney Fife was around the corner. Well, he wasn't, but it would have been okay if he was. But she incorporated some of that into her reality. Agitation. That word itself can include a lot of things. It can be kind of motor restlessness, or pacing, or pushing, or shoving, or just not being receptive to assistance with daily care, not really understanding what somebody's doing if they're trying to help you change clothes or take a bath, or all different kinds of things can fall into that category. The two that we're going to kind of focus on today are depression and apathy. So experts estimate that 40% of people with Alzheimer's disease suffer from significant depression. And depression can actually look different in dementia. Symptoms of depression are persistent sadness, anxiety, or kind of feeling empty, guilt, feeling helpless, feeling hopeless, pessimistic, not having a good outlook for the future, feeling irritable, easily frustrated, or restless, feeling guilty, worthless, or helpless, loss of interest or pleasure in activities, decreased energy, fatigue, feeling slowed down, difficulty concentrating, remembering, or making decisions, difficulty sleeping, early morning awakening, or oversleeping, changes in appetite or sometimes in weight, and vague medical complaints that don't improve with treatment. And then the last one is suicidal thoughts or actions. And as you can see, a lot of those symptoms kind of overlap with changes in cognition. Some of those symptoms can be primarily caused, not necessarily because of depression, but because of the cognitive changes that go along with dementia. So here's this other thing. I like saying this word, abulia. I don't know, it's just kind of a cool word. So there's apathy and abulia, or abulic mood. And this is different than depression. So apathy differs from depression. Depression is related to your mood, while apathy refers to a loss of motivation, and abulia is kind of a loss of will. It's a lack of motivation characterized by diminished speech, motor activity, and emotional expression. Loss of impulse or will or motivation to think, speak, and act. Now, it does not necessarily mean that that person is depressed. They might be completely content with what it is that's going on. However, to the family member or the people around them, they may look very depressed because they're sitting still, they're not engaging as much as they used to be, they're not initiating activities, they may resist going to do things that they once really enjoyed doing. So they just have a basic kind of sense of contentment. They're not worried about things, they're a little bit uninterested, a little bit detached, kind of just neutral. They don't have the same interest in going out and doing things. They might be more withdrawn and isolate, and they're not really interested in conversation with families. That's a big one that I get. I try to invite them over, or family members came to visit. They just went off by themselves and they didn't even talk to them. Can you believe that? Lack of physical movement. Risk for conflict with caregivers due to misinterpretation of symptoms, weight loss, and a lot of times the weight loss comes because of the fact that they don't follow through with, I think I'm hungry, I need to go get something to eat. They just think, I'm hungry, and then they're on to something else. They don't have the ability to plan and to organize and to carry out the action of fixing a sandwich. I don't really do that myself sometimes. I just think about being hungry. Although I clearly have not missed many meals. But so one of the things that people really struggle with is, they don't want to talk to family members or they don't want to go out. And a lot of times that comes from a sense of feeling kind of overwhelmed and a difficulty being able to filter all types of sensory input. Might be more crowded. There might be decisions that you have to make, like looking at a menu, picking out something that you have to order. You might not remember if somebody's already asked you something, and they just feel a little overwhelmed and out of their comfort zone, so they just kind of prefer to stay where they were. So this is a figure that is about, shows a little bit as far as apathy among individuals with different types of neurocognitive disorders. So, there's more than one type of dementia. And so this kind of breaks down different types of dementia, the ones that are most likely to present with apathy. I know, it's pretty... They're pretty much present with all of them, though, aren't they? All right, you guys, here he is. It's me, Ma. So what are some non-pharmacological things that you can do to help with managing apathy? It's really hard. And it's really hard to kind of spark something and think that they're going to follow through and stick with it. You have to share your motivation and your energy with them. You have to have daily routines and to help them organize their day. And it's not sufficient just to say, here's your clothes, you get dressed, and I'm going to go fix breakfast for us. You may come back and they may still be sitting there in the same place because they sometimes need a little bit more assistance than that, depending upon what stage of cognitive impairment that they're at. They might need you to do one thing at a time with them because remember, things that change, executive thinking skills are planning and organizing, putting things in sequence. And you may not remember you have to put your socks on before you put your shoes on.
A lot of the times we like to generalize tasks, right? So we look at like eating as one task, right? Or taking a shower being one task, or getting dressed being one task. But in all reality, how many tasks are actually involved with that particular activity? A lot. Think of how many tasks are involved with eating, showering, getting a meal ready. So when we prompt them from what we understand as one particular task as being the prompt, that's actually broken down into 10 or 15 things, and that can become very overwhelming for people. So when we say breaking down tasks, simple steps, this is what we're talking about.
Yeah. So it's easy to get distracted. Breaking down those tasks into simple steps helps to minimize frustration for the person that has cognitive impairment. And just think about yourself. We are all human. And if you try to do something and you fail or it doesn't work correctly, it doesn't work the way you want it to, it's frustrating. So trying to complete a task, if it doesn't work out for you, then it's frustrating. And you're less likely to try to follow through with attempting it again. Provide gentle prompts and initiate and maintain tasks like dressing, but remember that it won't stick. Don't think just because you went through it today that tomorrow it's going to go better. It may not even stick for the next 15 minutes. It may be gone as soon as you walk out of the room. And you don't know how many times I hear people say, "You remember when we did that, right? You remember that." No, they don't. If they did, they would have already answered you. So that is not helpful. Trying to say, we just did that the other day, and this is what we did, rather than reminding them that they don't remember. Offer praise and don't dwell on negativity. That's really difficult to do because, again, we're all human. I lost patience with my mom. So I was helping her in the bathroom one time. And one of the things that we did every night was I would help her get toothpaste on her, toothbrush and brush her teeth. And one of the things that comes along with dementia is sometimes you forget how to use things, a fork, a brush, a toothbrush. And she was having trouble figuring out exactly what to do with the toothbrush. Now, I don't know why this particular night it seemed like a horrible task, but she was having a lot of difficulty with it. So I was trying to kind of help her guide the toothbrush to the right spot. And for some reason, she wasn't feeling it. And so she threw the toothbrush at me and got toothpaste all over her hair. So for those of you that don't know Meemaw, getting anything messed up in her hair is a huge deal. So, of course, I'm human. And you know what I said? I was like, "See, that's what you get. God don't like ugly." So now, was that the appropriate thing to say? No, but, she gave me the little side-eye thing, and we got past it. And I said, "Don't throw that toothpaste at me again." But we're all human. We all struggle with those feelings as a caregiver. It's frustrating. It's hard when you tell somebody, "Raise your leg up," and they don't know how to do it. They're not doing it on purpose. They may not understand and be able to process the direction and be able to carry out the task. But she didn't throw no toothpaste at me no more, though. So don't blame them. Don't call them lazy. They're not. They're struggling just like you are every day. And avoid things that are very frustrating for them. So what are some specific activities that we can try? So these are some things that I did with my mom. These are pictures of me with my mom. Adult days.
Yeah, there's plenty of programs, obviously, probably anywhere that you're at if you don't live in this particular area. But adult day programs offer assistance for individuals to go and interact with their peers, right? Whether it's memory related or not, there are specific programs that are. It gives you an opportunity as a caregiver, one, to have a little bit of respite, two, to provide structure and schedule to your loved one, and three, to give them some purpose, socialization, communication, interaction. Those are some of the variables that we know that are extremely important and can combat some of these issues that we've been talking about.
And it really doesn't have to be a huge, big, formal thing. Just going on a car ride. Drive through a park. I used to take my mom for a drive down Bardstown Road, for those of you that are local. You can see all kinds of stuff on Bardstown Road. And we would just drive down Bardstown Road and turn up the music and open the sunroof and put the sunglasses on. That was really cool. Arrange visits with family and friends, but make sure that you try to keep those reasonably short. Too long of visits can sometimes be overwhelming and difficult for them. When you have time and you can be in the kitchen, pull out old cookbooks and look at some recipes and talk about some of the things that you did in the past and some of your favorite meals and what you like to eat, and cook something together. Just do that. My mom and I tried to make Derby pie together. I cannot do it. I melted all the chocolate chips. It was horrible. I was terrible. She was an amazing baker. Do manicures, hand massages, foot massages, brush your hair, just things that are relaxing. A lot of times people, as they progress with dementia, they really don't have physical touch, and they lack that. And every time somebody touches them, it's just care related. Just sit, enjoy being together, brush somebody's hair, rub their back, just to be able to have that kind of connection and contact. Go through old family pictures, and this was my mom's favorite, church directories. How many of y'all have all your church directories? My mother had them since 1965. I am not even joking. And we would look at every single picture. She could tell me who all those people were. You know, they got divorced. She remembered everybody, and she talked about them, and she looked at everybody's picture. Watch old TV shows, or even some of the old radio programs that you can play and just listen to the audio. Try to keep them short. Like long movies are kind of a little too much, but like short, I Love Lucy or Bonanza or whatever, short things like that are great. And particularly if they involve humor is great. Sit and just have coffee or tea or lemonade. Do some little trivia. Look together at puzzles, but also understand that sometimes those things are too complex. And if you pick out a 1,000-piece puzzle, that's probably not going to work out well for you. I'd just throw it across the room. That's too much. That's too overwhelming for me. So try to think about a task that you can start and finish within a reasonable amount of time. Clean out a drawer together. Just take a drawer. Everybody's got one of those drawers in the kitchen that's got everything in it, like the warranty from your refrigerator that you bought in 1972, right? My dad worked at GE, so we had all kinds of stuff like that. Listen to music. Dance, sing, play music that is specific to the era that they loved music. Think about what their age is and subtract back to like when they were like 18 or 20 and look at what were the top 10 songs at that particular time. My mom and I played a lot of music. Yeah, but we're Baptist, and Baptist people ain't allowed to dance. So I'm not saying we danced, but we could have. Do some crafts. Do things that you enjoy together. Even just coloring. Color, paint rocks, deliver them to people, scrapbooking, all kinds of fun things my mom and I did. We used to just take pictures up on her closet on the door just so she could look at, and we would sit there and look at them. Organize a toolbox. If you're a gentleman who's had a toolbox forever, go through some tools. Now, I want to caution you on this one. Be realistic about, maybe sometimes you have to evaluate how safe it is to have some tools available.
Let's limit power tools.
Yeah, limit power tools is probably a good idea. And then think about things like museums. If the person is still able to get out and to go on tours, the Alzheimer's Association has a tour at the Speed Museum. It's great. These are pictures of my mom at the museum, and at the top, that's my sister, my daughter, and me. That was New Year's. And at the bottom is my mom. We went out to eat together, and every time I tried to take a picture, she said, "Hey." We try again, "Hey." And then we were just laughing at her. So what are some other specific activities that you can do? What about the public library? Just going and looking at books together. They do have some services that are specific for older adults. You can look at computer classes or books or audio tapes. Did you all know that they have a thing where you can just check out a telescope? I know, right? Who knew that? You can check out a telescope and read about the stars. I got one time. I couldn't figure out how to work it. But celebrate monthly holidays. Like this is Halloween. These are pictures of my mom for Halloween. Look, she's Minnie Mouse, and I don't know what that other thing is. It was a cat. My mom would have never done that before she had dementia, but she loved it after. And we passed out candy to people at the facility that she stayed at. So celebrating those monthly holidays is something that you can really do. Play board games that are reasonable. Do puzzles, but be careful of the complexity. Have you all ever seen that game? It's called Pie in the Face, where you spin a thing and then you have to turn it, and then I did that with my mom. It was hilarious. I wish I could play a video for you all. It was great. Devotional times. If spirituality or religion is something that's important to you, Bible verses, memory verses, short little devotionals, or listening to music that's inspirational to you is something that's really great. Exercise. There's a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of chair exercise things that you can do. And pet therapy. Think about anything that they might enjoy that has to do with pets. I don't know if you all can tell, but that top one, can you see my mom holding something? That was my pig. I used to have a pet pig. His name was Hamlet, and she called him her grand pig. And I actually took him to the nursing home to see her one day. It was hysterical. But cats, dogs, anything, if somebody really enjoys that, can really be comforting and soothing to them. Maybe not pigs, maybe that's a little much, but and then any kind of task that you can keep them involved with and can be helpful for you as well, and allow them the opportunity to be a part of the household. Sweeping, folding, sorting socks, folding clothes, help them wash dishes, anything that you can kind of help to keep them engaged with. Pharmacological treatment. So there are some medications that we can use that can be helpful. But before we look at that, we need to look at any possible underlying cause or any medical condition that could be causing some of the apathy or changes or depression, changes in moods. Are there any medications that they're taking that are interacting with other medicines or causing side effects or problems that make them look like they have less energy, or they're more apathetic, or they're sad or depressed? Are their labs okay? Do we need to look at and see if there are any changes in their lab work that could be an answer for why their mood or behavior has changed? Is there any underlying illness that could account for some of the changes that are going on? And then memory medications. A lot of the memory medications can help with some of these symptoms that we described that is apathy. It can help a little bit with improving a little bit of motivation, a little bit more motivation to get involved in things. Not for everybody. I'm not going to say it's a perfect thing, but it is something that can be helpful for folks. Antidepressant medications. These medications can be helpful, but again, if it's something really that's more apathy and not as much depression, we may not have as robust of an improvement as we would have if there's a primary depressive etiology. Occasionally, it's appropriate to use stimulants to kind of help to motivate, give a little bit more energy. Those things might be something like methylphenidate or modafinil, armodafinil. I can't even say that one. Occasionally, also, we may use antipsychotic medication. Although that is something that has to be done, it would be used off-label. It's something that you really have to have a conversation with your healthcare provider about using those types of medications. And lastly, it could involve any kind of combination of those medications in addition to non-pharmacological interventions. All right, this is the last slide, you guys. Oh, dang it. Look, this is a shadow box that I made with my mom. And this is one of the crafts that we did together. It's a picture of her when she was 18. And a picture of my sisters and her with my father when they were younger. And little scrapbook pieces of all different types of things that she loved in her lifetime. This cost me $8. I sat down with her, we picked out pictures, we arranged them, and we stuck them on there. And it was wonderful. And it Took about an hour and a half, but it was a wonderful experience for her, and I still have that. And I have it for everybody in my family to preserve from here on out. My kids can see it, her grandkids can see it, her great-grandkids can see it. So I appreciate you all coming very much today. I'm thankful every day for the opportunity to work with the Memory Clinic and for the people that we get to serve.